Hello, welcome to this presentation about a common view on progress. This is the solution that was presented after viewing that in a large program, different stakeholders were having a look on progress with different levels of granularities. So when the end users were expecting to have everything, sponsors were viewing some parts of it in major epics, and program management was slicing them finally into features ready for implementation. That was also the minimum unit being deployed into production. But in the middle, the implementation teams needed to work on different user stories, and many of them were composing finally a single feature. That was a problem, as we are going to see, because everybody was having a different language to refer about what progress really meant. And on top of this, they were also using different tools to visualize this progress. So the teams were mainly using Jira, while program management was extracting the information and visualizing it into an Excel sheet because this is what they were most familiar with. And out of this information, they were consolidating the results into some few slides to present to the sponsors and the end users. As we've said before, some of the issues were a lack of alignment because everybody was talking about different levels of granularity, and some of them were saying, yes, we are making a lot of progress because we did a lot of user stories, but maybe none of them were completing a single feature. They were just working on user stories of different features, and there was nothing finished in order to be able to deploy in production and make it visible to the other stakeholders. There were issues with conflicting priorities because when an implementation team needed help from another one, everybody was focusing on their own, what has been assigned to each single team, and nobody was worrying about the big picture, having an overview of the things and understanding deeper about the solution that we were trying to build. This also led to incomplete deployments because sometimes some user stories that were important for a feature were forgotten and not deployed into production, producing inconsistencies, errors, bugs, undermining the trust from the end users at the end of the day. And regarding the reporting and the way that progress was being visualized, there were often inconsistent data between Jira, Excel, and PowerPoint, being that also a little bit confusing and undermining the credibility of the whole solution. So, after some discussions, the solution that we came out was basically to have a single unit to measure progress, and the one that was chosen was the feature, because this is the minimum that is being deployed into production. Of course, at each level, everybody has to continue having the previous visibility, so end users can talk about everything, sponsors about epics, implementation teams about user stories, but at every single moment they need to understand that the feature is the single unit of measurement, is the common language across all different layers, and this is how we agree across the whole program to measure progress. So when implementation teams are working in user stories, they always need to keep the perspective of the feature that they belong to and try to prioritize the fact of completing features rather than just producing more and more user stories that may be disconnected with each other. In a similar way, collaboration across different teams is favored because we can define priorities as feature level, and if team A needs help on a user story from team B, they just need to see the user stories they are working on, what are the features they belong to, and which one has the highest priority. And then the decision should be obvious. Regarding the reporting, it was also decided that the best would be to have a Jira as a single source of truth, designing it for operational work, so getting the job done, without overwhelming the teams with additional information that is needed for program management, sponsors, or end user. So they can configure Jira on their own way, what better suits their needs, and using the REST API call, we can extract information and have an overview, a simplified one, where we can see the whole progress in an HTML page with a real-time connection to Jira, where the numbers that we are observing there are clickable and are hyperlinks that show afterwards the list of the issues that they belong to. This is a concept that was already implemented in another program, and it has demonstrated to work very well, because not only is this a non-intrusive way of summarizing information, but also is a way to see across the different teams. For example, imagine we have an implementation team that needs to work with the results of some analysis or refinement. We can have them members of the same team working in these different stages, and even though they are working in previous parts before the implementation, they need to keep the view of themselves as a single team, and all together they are responsible for the features that they are preparing to be deployed into production. At the same time, there could be another team, like in this case the green team, where a deputy of this team is also collaborating in the analysis with a member of the black team. And together they are slicing the epics into features and the features into user stories, and they are collaborating at this level, but they are also remaining accountable and in connection with the corresponding team, so they can track the progress of the items all the way downwards until they are deployed into production. This increases collaboration across the different stations and also across the different teams, making the whole program as a single unit with a clear view that at the end of the day only counts the number of features that are being released into production. This is how we score a goal together. So making an analogy with a football team, yes, the goalkeeper is important, defense is important, every single play matters, but at the end of the day, what is going to make us a winning team is to score goals. And scoring a goal is about deploying a feature into production. Back to the problems we were viewing before and we aim to solve with this proposal. Just to recap, we were talking about the lack of alignment, conflicting priorities, incomplete deployments, and inconsistent data in the reporting. And we see in this approach that by having a single unit to measure progress, we achieve to align all stakeholders in the same view of the situation. We can define priorities at feature level and have a clear overview of the deployments being done, knowing at every single moment all the user stories that correspond to a feature and knowing if it's ready for deployment. The data is always consistent because it has a real time with Jira, and even though we have an aggregated view in an HTML page, it offers drill down capabilities so the people can go down to the ultimate ticket to see the real status of everything. Additionally, this common overview helps to increase collaboration across the different stages from analysis to implementation and deployment, and also across the different teams, even if they are working in different features or user stories. This makes a solid overall team at program level and is a key factor for success. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.